NASCAR Coast to Coast coming at you on this Thursday, October the 28th, the penultimate episode of the 2025 season. And we've got a lot to get to as well. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour wrapped up its championship over the weekend, as you heard right here on the Motor Racing Network. We'll talk to Austin Beers about his championship run in 2025 season coming up in just a few minutes. Also, the Cars Tour and the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour have launched their 2026 schedules. We'll break it all down, plus all the news and notes in short track racing. And we've got a twofer, another guest joining us in studio, Isabella Robusto, after a ARCA Menard Series Rookie of the Year campaign, has some special news to announce as she gets ready to head west to Phoenix Raceway and take part in the ARCA West Championship finale. That's all coming up right here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and it starts right now. Welcome into NASCAR Coast to Coast on this Thursday, October the 28th, here on the Motor Racing Network. My name is Chris Wilner, your host and MRN pit reporter. And boy, what a weekend it was at Martinsville Speedway. We kick off our show as we crowned a champion in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Justin Bonsignor won the race doing what he needed to do, but the driver who really did what he needed to do was Austin Beers, who captured his first NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion and now set the new record as youngest NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion at 22 years, 7 months, and 5 days old. There were a lot of different strategies going on, a lot of different opportunities for drivers to either make track position or try to make their race cars better near toward the end. We had some issues with Bobby Labonte blowing a motor. We had Luke Baldwin, who many thought would contend up toward the front, have an issue with the track bar that took him out. But at the end, it was Justin Bonsignor that rolled away with another grandfather clock. But our champion, Austin Beers, now joins us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the hotline. Austin, congratulations. Boy, what a scene it was in Victory Lane there at Martinsville Speedway. Got to talk to your dad right before I talked to you in Victory Lane. What's the hangover like now that you can finally be called a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion?
Yeah, well, I didn't really have much of a hangover because I don't drink, so that's the good part.
Perfect.
But we're back at work on Monday. Did a little celebrating this weekend, but right back to work and excited to hit Turkey Derby here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you did some racing too. You went up to Seekonk as well. What does winning a championship mean? I mean, I guess you in the moment, a lot's going on. The emotions are high, but now that you've kind of sat down and thought about it, what does winning a NASCAR championship mean to you in your career at such a young age?
Yeah, it means a lot. Just, looking back at it now, just seeing the legends and, all the people I have so much respect for that I still race with, that are, a part of the history of the Whelen Modified Tour, that have their name etched on that trophy. And now that my name's going to be on it, it's pretty surreal. Like I said Thursday, I didn't really think about it, too much because I didn't want to jinx it. But just looking back on it, seeing the history of the tour and, everybody that won it and, how hard it is to win one of these championships. It's pretty incredible what we accomplished this year. And, man, I'm just so thankful for the team I have behind me and Mike and Maggie Murphy, who allowed me to run their race car and gave me this incredible opportunity. And now we're all rewarded with a championship.
Does it make it more special doing it against a guy like Justin Bonsignor, a four-time champion who I'm sure is going to go down as one of the greatest of all time in the modified tour? I mean, he had some really, really impressive and high praise for you, things to say in Victory Lane, watching you celebrate. So what does it mean to you that not only did you win your first one in the way you did, but also do it up against one of the greats?
Yeah, that definitely, it's a pretty incredible to, not only do it against Justin, like you said, with, all of his accomplishments, but to do it against like one of your good friends. When I joined the tour, Justin kind of somehow just took me under his wing there and helped me progress through the series and, get better and better each week and gave me advice and to race him for the championship, he put a lot of pressure on me. And, I just have a lot of respect for that whole Ken Massa Motorsports team and, everything they've accomplished now that Ken is tied for the most tour wins of all time as a car owner. That's pretty cool. But yeah, to beat Justin for it and that whole team, it's definitely pretty special because you earned it if you're beating somebody like Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. And that race played out kind of in two different parts. There was one point, I think the scenario going in, you had to finish eighth or better. There was one point you were just sitting eighth, maybe fell back to ninth. I now know the car wasn't handling to your liking early. Was there any point of worry, or kind of how did that race play out for you to where you were able to surge there at the end and get yourself extra insurance that you were going to be the champion?
Yeah, like you said, we were kind of struggling there. Definitely like 1 and 2 was our weak spot. And early in the race, I just couldn't turn through there. And, we gave up a couple spots, especially starting the outside. So I think I fell back to like 10th, 11th, progressed back to 8th. But, obviously I know Justin's leading all the laps at that point and kind of dominating the race. So I just, was thinking while racing, just, take your time, long race, 200 laps, don't put yourself in a bad spot. I knew we were going to have a good pit strategy. I knew we'd be able to work on the race car and get it better. And fortunately that happened. And, to get out ahead of Justin after the first two sets of pit stops. And that kind of eased our mind a little more. And especially getting that bonus point leading the lap and then just kind of riding around there. We definitely didn't have the best race car. But, we were good enough to solidify a top 5 if the people didn't run out like they did. And then to get second was pretty cool as well.
How do you sum up this season? 2 wins, 12 top 5s. You were never worse than ninth all season long. And of course, you completed all the laps, which no one else could say they did this season. So obviously this ended in a championship and I would say exceeded expectations, but how would you put 2025 into words?
Yeah, just consistent. We really harped on, being as best we could throughout the day. When I first started the tour, it was get the car good in practice and qualifying and in the race, but we struggled towards the latter half of races, during pit stops and making mid-race adjustments. So we just kind of, worked it one day at a time, one race at a time, and just focused on us. And it really helped later on. And just don't make stupid errors that could, cost yourself points like early in the season is another thing that we really harped on. That happened to us 2 years ago and this year and last year. So we just, wanted to be consistent and just take it race by race. And, it all worked out in the end, just being consistent, take the spots we can when we could.
And I wanted to hit on this. And you mentioned your car owners, Mike and Maggie Murphy. Mike is a 68-year-old Irish immigrant that had basically taken a chance on you, a young 18-year-old back a few years ago. I had no idea that he had health issues. There was at one point he had a bilateral lung transplant. What a journey for your car owner, but how, I guess, special has this run been with him, knowing all that he's been through and to finally reward him with this championship?
Yeah, for sure. It's been pretty incredible what we've accomplished this year and what we've built these past 4.5 years now that I've been with Murph. And like you said, last year it was really tough on the whole team when he wasn't coming to the races because he's having those issues. And then to finally have him back, it felt like we were a whole team again this year. And I think it showed on the racetrack as well. I think we were going to the track last year. We were there to win, but we didn't feel like a whole team. So having him back at the track meant a lot to us this year. And, he made every race. And now he was pacing back and forth, behind the pit box during the race, I was told. So, 2 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. He would have been having to sit down and he really couldn't move that well.
Yeah.
So, to have him in good health and now deliver that championship to him and that whole team. And, they've had a lot of ups and downs and struggled a lot. So, they never threw in the towel, never gave up. And when they tabbed me to run, I was super excited to run for Murph. We kind of clicked right away there. And it's just we hit it off and just built this team up and just got better and better each time we were out on the racetrack. So to deliver him that championship, it means a lot to not only me but my whole family. And he's very excited.
It's an incredible story. Speaking of family, your dad, Eric, of course, has got a lot of accomplishments as a racer, but do you get to get the extra bragging rights as a champion? I know he hasn't done it.
Yeah. We had this ongoing joke. Like when I started the tour, he'd always joke with me that he has 2 wins on the tour. So when I got to 2, I was like, man, it's 2-2 now. We tied up. And, every win I kind of joke with him. And, now we're up to 5. So, I was on stage on Thursday and I looked over at him. I was like 1-0 championship wise there. So I just, we joke around, but without my dad, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am in racing. And, he instilled this racing bug in me, and I'm sure, when I have kids, I'll do the same. And he did it the right way with me. He never pressured me to race. When I got out of quarter midgets, he kind of just sold them, and he said, all right, he didn't say anything about it. He just wanted to see if I missed it. So halfway through the year, I was like, when are we going racing again? And that's when I got in a 4-cylinder later on in that year. So but he never pressured me. He wanted me to do it, not have him forcing me to do it. So, and doing it that way, I just love the sport now. And I appreciate everything I have.
Lastly, before we go, obviously you got one championship down. So what's next? How do the goals change, and what does next year look like? Is it going back to back?
Yeah, I hope so. I feel like we've just been building, and maybe we could, shoot for more wins next year, but also try to keep that same consistency that we had this year. Because, running the tour, it takes a lot to be, as consistent as we were. It's not easy what we did. And every point matters. You could top 10 every race, and you have someone like Justin who's still right there, only losing by 8, even with their struggles they had this year. So I would like to go back to back, maybe even get into a truck for a race or two. That'd be nice. Just got to find sponsorship and an opportunity there. But, like I said, I love running modifieds, and I'm excited to tackle it.
Well, a championship certainly opens the door for all those possibilities. Austin, congratulations on the big win and the big championship. And we'll catch up with you in 2026 when we do it all over again.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Austin Beers, NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion, joining us on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Coming up, we're going to shift gears from modifieds to ARCA West as their championship wraps up in Phoenix. We'll have Isabella Robusto stop by, talk about her big news that broke this week and what her plans are coming up. That's all next here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.
3, 2, 1, start your engine!
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi.
Tell them we got it.
Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby!
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network. Appreciate Austin Beers for joining us. We're going to go from one guest to the next. We're going to talk ARCA West going out to Phoenix, and our ARCA Menard Series Rookie of the Year is joining us here in studio, Isabella Robusto. Isabella, good to see you again, and we're probably ready to get out of here in this cold in Charlotte and go to Phoenix, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm so ready. I'm ready to get on the plane tomorrow and head out to the warm West Coast.
100%. Before we get to your big news that happened this week and the reason we're going out to Phoenix, let's talk about 2025 Rookie of the Year campaign. I know, everybody wants to win, and maybe the expectations, were they met? Were they exceeded? Where do you rank 2025 for ARCA?
Yeah, I feel like we had our good races, and then we had a handful of races that didn't go our way, either from mechanical issues, getting stuck in some other people's troubles. But looking at the good races that we had, we were up front running in the top 3, and we had pace, which was the goal. We wanted to win. That obviously didn't happen, but I think I learned a lot, especially going to 90% of the tracks I've never been to. And so I felt like it was a good learning year for me. Overall, result wise, I think we got close to what we wanted to do, but the win was always one that we wanted to tick off and wasn't able to. But I think it was a great learning year overall.
For sure. Finished 4th in points, as I mentioned, Rookie of the Year. So congratulations. Okay, so we were doing that with Venturini Motorsports, kind of Nitro Motorsports as that transition happened. But big news this week, you're going to join Rafa Racing, and Rafa Racing making their first ARCA Menard Series platform start. I've been around Rafa a little bit on the sports car side of things, but how did this come together? And I guess for the fans watching or listening, what is Rafa Racing?
Yeah. So Rafa Racing is really big kind of on the sports car side and IMSA and SRO. They run in BP Challenge, GS, and then also in the SRO GT America series. So super exciting to be with them. The team owner and team principal, Kevin Conway, obviously used to race in NASCAR, was Rookie of the Year when he was in Cup. And so it's kind of a full circle moment for him, bringing kind of the team back into the NASCAR world. And so I'm grateful that I'm the person that they chose to kind of kick off the campaign. But we're going to start in Phoenix, and on the West race and see how that goes. But super cool for the team to kind of breach into the NASCAR world, kind of outside of what they normally do in the sports car world. And yeah, it's a great team. They're luxury lifestyle for motorsport enthusiasts on the Rafa Racing Club side, and then obviously you have the Rafa Racing team kind of under the umbrella. So super exciting to be with them.
What's this process been like, not only getting, incorporated in the Rafa program, but also the fact that this has got to be a monumental task going stock car racing from sports car racing. So obviously you've had the experience on the ARCA side. Have they leaned in on you of like, what do we expect? How do we kind of get this program off the ground?
Yeah, we've had a lot of those conversations, and Jamie Jones, who's been a huge part in the team and getting the car up and running, came from actually the Venerini side. So I got to know him when I was over at Venerini all through this year. And then it's been kind of a long process of getting the car together. We actually went and tested last Friday to do a shakedown to make sure kind of everything was good before the trailers rolled out west. But yeah, it's been kind of a learning curve for a big majority of the Rafa Racing team. But between Kevin, Jamie, and I feel like we've done a really good job of kind of explaining as much as we could to everyone kind of what the NASCAR world is like.
For sure. And yeah, it's only going to be a building process and a learning curve as you keep going. Obviously, the partnership's still there with Toyota, so you'll be running a Camry as well, still in the TRD program. I guess how much of a rewarding factor is it now to be a part of something new versus coming into like a place like Venturini that's been around for decades?
Yeah, it's a very different kind of mindset. Like at Venerini, they obviously already had their legacy set in all of the wins and success that they've had throughout the years, where I'm kind of the first driver and the first car that the team's had on the NASCAR side, but I feel like they have that same legacy kind of on the sports car side. They've won both VP Challenge championships this year. They were third in GS and second in both of their SRO championships. So they obviously have a really good legacy, and they've won a lot in all of the stuff that they've raced this year. And so this also being the first year that the Rafa Racing team existed. Before then, it was Smooch Racing, but it didn't transition over to Rafa until this year. So for them to have that kind of year for their first ever year as a team is big. And so I'm hoping that I can just kind of launch the ARCA side and NASCAR side of things the same way.
For sure. And you also come from a road racing background too, doing the GR Cup stuff as well. So are there opportunities to maybe double dip on both ends?
I hope so. I really enjoy that stuff. It's super fun to kind of go to the sports car world and run the GR Cup or the GT4 Supra. And yeah, I think that's helped me get to know all of the guys working on the cars, working at the shop, and then also with the Rafa team really well throughout this year, just going to the races and helping out where I can.
Let's talk about Phoenix. Been there a couple of times. What are the challenges of this racetrack? And I can't imagine the challenges for a new team trying to get a car set up for such a unique racetrack.
Yeah, the new car, I feel like we've had a lot of help from friends around kind of the NASCAR world, and I don't feel like that's an issue. I feel like we're going to show up and we're going to be right on pace where we need to be. I think one of the challenges, which weather-wise looks really good compared to when we went earlier this year. But when we went there earlier this year, we didn't get any practice. We didn't qualify. We lined up by points and just raced. So hopefully for our sake, we get some practice and can qualify. But yeah, it's a track that I really love. It was my first ever ARCA race a year and a half ago. And so I'm super excited to go back and have another shot.
How does this race usually play out? Because I feel like there's a lot of comers and goers throughout the day. You kind of need to position yourself after the halfway break. So what have you learned over the course of your couple starts there to make sure you're in the right spot?
Yeah, the earlier this year, I only made it a handful of laps before we ended up blowing up the motor. So I really only have my first race to kind of go back to. But from that, we had pace the whole race. Just I struggled on restarts a lot. And I feel like that's something that I've gotten a lot better at this year. But yeah, definitely the halfway break is a big thing, making sure you make the right changes, because when you go into the second half of the race, the car will change a lot. The track's going to change a lot. So I think a big part is making sure our communication is there through practice, knowing what I need in the car, what the team thinks I need in the car, and working with a new team, new spotter, kind of new group entirely. I think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve through practice, but if we all do our jobs, the race will come easy.
It's an incredible racetrack. It's going to be an incredible weekend of racing out there. Racing in the ARCA Menard series, what is the biggest thing it's taught you over these last couple of years as a race car driver, somebody who's kind of done it all, driven here, there, and everything?
The racetracks are the biggest difference. I feel
Yeah.
like racing wise, I'm still racing the group that I grew up racing with. We all kind of like moved up together.
Yeah.
So racing wise, I don't feel like it's too much different other than the aero side of things and racing on the bigger racetracks, the bigger and faster tracks. I feel like Phoenix is one of those where it's kind of a short track, but it also has a lot of aero that goes with it, especially through like 1 and 2 and cutting the dog leg. There's a lot of stuff there. So, working with Trevor Bain and Blake Cook, I feel like that's been a huge help, especially this year through the Toyota racing development and just trying to learn all that stuff from video, iRacing, whatever it might be to kind of prep for the races. And I feel like that helps a lot leading into a race like Phoenix.
You mentioned the dog leg. I think I heard Chase Briscoe say it'll rattle your brain if you kind of cut it the wrong way. Have you had an experience with the dog leg there?
I did the first race that I did there in practice. It was the first time they had me cut the dog leg, and I did not cut it right, and it hurt. And I was like, I have to do this like every lap of the race. Are you serious? And I hit it the second time and hit it at the right angle, and it wasn't nearly as like much of a jolt through your body. And I was like, all right, like keep that in mind, like make sure.
Is
I'm
that something
pointing
you
right.
see? Like, can you see like, okay, I can't go this far down, or is it more just feel?
I feel like it's more feel. You can't really see exactly where it is, but when we went and did the track walk, you can definitely see like where it's more aggressive. So there's certain spots you want to cross over if possible, but at the end of the day, like when a restart comes, you're gonna have to cut when you can. So I think it's more of just being prepared and being ready and making sure you hold the wheel tight enough so that if it does jolt, like it's not ripping out of your hands or anything.
Yeah, I'm okay. I heard there's a lot of Advil that gets passed around after a race there at Phoenix for sure. How's your brother Will doing? I know you guys got to race each other earlier this year.
Yeah.
What's kind of his trajectory, and has he thought about coming over on this side?
I feel like he's more of a sports car kid,
Is
but
he?
yeah, I had the chance to race with him a handful of times this year. Actually, we just got back from Indy about a week ago, racing GR Cup together, and yeah, it's really special to kind of go back and race with him and give him a hard time. But I didn't qualify the best when we raced the Indy in the first race, and I started right around 13th, and he started I think in the top 5, and by the end of the first lap I ended up being on his bumper, and I did the one thing I'm not supposed to do, and I ran into him.
Oh no.
But I didn't spin him out, which made me feel good because I kind of helped him move forward, but I hurt my nose in the process. But yeah, it's fun just to kind of go back and race with my brother, and yeah, it's a huge family thing. I think I got more crap for hitting him than anything. But yeah, it was fun just to go back and race with him.
Is there a sibling rivalry, or how do you kind of like approach, not even just racing each other, but seeing like, oh well, in ARCA I got a top 5. What'd you do this weekend? Kind of like, is there some of that going on?
I don't feel like there's too much of that. Only when I like go and race with him, I feel like then he's like, all right, I beat you. But at the same time, we kind of know like this is what he does, this is what I do. Like we kind of know like what our things are, but at the same time we have a sibling rivalry when I go back and race with him, and it would be the same if he did come over and race against me at some point. But you always have a race inside of a race with him. You want to have the bragging rights, but at the end of the day, we're each other's, I feel like, biggest fans and teammates at the same time.
That's how siblings should be. I wish my twin sister would listen a little more to that. Maybe she's watching this episode. We'll see. Obviously, with all the racing going on too, you're still getting your aerospace engineering degree.
I am.
How do you balance all that? For those that don't know, she's been taking tests on race weekends. I think it was Lime Rock that you had a test like the day before. I had a physics
test in the morning before we went to the racetrack. I had to get up super early to do it before we drove.
How do you do all that? How do you balance all that?
Well, most of the time it makes it pretty easy scheduling wise when we race kind of like on a Friday or Saturday. It's when we have like the 2 or 3 day shows like Lime Rock where we had to be there for I think 4 days, that it makes it a little bit harder. But my teachers are super helpful in being able to schedule things out, normally like being able to take things early, wait till I get back just so I'm not at a racetrack or an airport when I have to take tests. But yeah, I feel like I've kind of learned it since high school. I've been online, and so learning my time management when I'm working on school, it's only school, nothing else. Same with racing, like I know what I need to do for racing, no distractions type of thing. And so I feel like that's been a big part of it, but at the same time I want to get a degree, and that's something that I personally want. And so I know like it's gonna
Yeah.
be a long 4 years, but
For sure.
at the same time, like I know that's what I want to do.
What do you hope to do with that? Is that just something that you've just been interested in, that, like you said, like personally, I want to get a degree, but is there something that you can use some of the knowledge you're learning for on the racing side?
Yeah, I feel like it always helps on the racing side. Like obviously working with the engineers every day, either at the shop or on the sim is a big part too. That's something that I didn't really grow up doing, was all the simulator work, and that's now a huge part of my day to day is being on the sim and working with the engineers there, just because we don't get practice. And so I feel like it always helps with the terminology and understanding the sim more every time that I go. And same thing with when we go to the team and we do our post race debriefs, or we're going to a new track and we're just looking at raw data. I think it helps me working with the engineers at the shop. But it's also just something that I enjoy. I love engineering. I love 3D printing. I that's always just been something that I've loved growing up, and I like working on my race cars. I grew up always going to the shop every day, working on my cars, and so I feel like it's just something that I want as well.
You're a lot smarter than me. I just like talking, as you can tell, so that's why I got my degree in, but that's probably a little bit more functional. Let's talk just real quick about, so Rafa is going to start this weekend. What is a good weekend at Phoenix for this upstart team?
I think we have a shot to win, but top 3 is the goal. We want to run up front. We want to be competitive with the 28 and the 18. I think we have that chance. I feel like we have a really good team and a really good car underneath of us. And like I said earlier, I think if we all do our jobs right, a top 3 is very doable.
And the plan next year be full-time or kind of what does 2026 look like? Do we know yet, I guess?
I know. Nobody else really knows.
All right.
But
you don't have to break news here unless you want to.
No, we're focused fully on Phoenix right now. Yeah. And in the weeks after, we'll make some announcements, but I'm super excited about it all.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll have more on this when that becomes available.
We'll circle back.
There we go. Well, thank you for stopping by. Congratulations on the Rookie of the Year and all the success in the ARCA Menard series. And we'll see you out there in the Phoenix hot desert weather.
Hopefully sunny, no rain.
That's the plan. I heard it's upper 80s and sunshine. So bring your sunscreen instead of your umbrella, which we had to deal with. Perfect. So thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Isabella Robusto joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Still lots more to come. Schedule announcements for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour as well as the Cars Tour. And we'll let you know how to listen to Isabella's race this weekend and a lot more coming up next.
3, 2, 1. Start your engine.
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi.
Tell them we got it.
Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby.
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on MRN. What a great show so far. Appreciate Austin Beers and Isabella Robusto joining us. Now let's get into some of the winners from this past weekend. Jake Garcia, I know the truck stuff hasn't gone the way he's wanted to in 2025, but he just picked up another career milestone, winning the 30th running of the World Crown 300 at Cordelia, Georgia. Won it from 15th over the weekend. The Georgia boy winning in his home state, one of their crown jewel races, $42,500, the payday for that. What a great race it was. A lot of the big stars were there. Cole Butcher, Gavin Boschel, Dawson Sutton, as well as had a great run in super late model racing, all a part of it. But Jake Garcia picking up the huge win over the weekend in that crown jewel race. Matt Hirschman up at Seekonk got the hat trick at Seekonk after having issues at Martinsville in the Whelen Modified Tour season finale. Went up there and won the Monaco Tri-Track Series event and won the third time at Seekonk. But John McKennedy was crowned champion of the Monaco Tri-Track Series of 2025. And remember the name Raphael Lessard? Back in the Truck Series for KBM several years ago. Well, the former Truck Series competitor and a Canadian won the 2025 Milton Cat American Canadian Tour Championship over the weekend as he solidified him a title over the weekend. So congratulations to those 3 drivers and many more who have wrapped up 2025 in style. Some news and notes over the weekend. I mentioned 2 schedules had come out during the weekend of Martinsville. NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour announced their 2026 schedule, 16 races looking ahead to 2026. No Richmond in 2026. That kind of caught some people off guard, but it is an ode to the old short tracks of yesteryear. Stafford is coming back on tour. That'll happen in August. Oxford Plains is back on the schedule as well. Claremont returns for the first time since 2022, and the championship finale is no longer at Martinsville. It is back at Thompson, one of its couple stops on the 2026 season schedule. Martinsville now will happen earlier, make it race number 2 in March, actually on my birthday, if those taking notes, March 27th. Riverhead is back on the schedule as usual. White Mountain, Seekonk, as well as Monadnock, New Hampshire, the Magic Mile on NASCAR weekend, all in its normal weekend slate as far as the schedule is concerned. Things kick off February 7th once again at the World Series of Asphalt at New Smyrna Speedway. The Cars Tour just wrapped up its championship with, of course, Landon Lewis and Ben Mayer securing titles. They're now looking forward to 2026 with their 2026 season schedules. Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, a part of returning to the schedule as well. 2 races in Tennessee. Nashville Fairgrounds coming up in April, and then Newport for the first time in Tennessee will make its appearance on the Cars Tour schedule for both late model stocks and the pro late models on October the 3rd. Coastal Plains will kick off things on February 21st. Of course, North Wilkesboro Speedway is back on it, as well as a lot of our normal regular races, including Tri-County, a lot of course, Hickory, of course, with the throwback 276. But we are ending the season for the Cars Tour at South Boston this year instead of North Wilkesboro on October 17th, 2026. So a lot of good stuff coming up as far as those schedules are concerned. On the Modified Tour, some big news this week as well. Going into the last race of the year, Patrick Emmerling and USNE Power, a longtime sponsor in the Modified Tour, including race sponsorships as well as team sponsorships. Well, Patrick and USNE Power have partnered to create USNE Power Motorsports that'll field the number 1 car for Patrick in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour next year in 2026, as well as part-time in the Monaco Tri-Track Series. So a good partnership there, as Patrick will now still run the number 1, but it'll be under the USNE Power Motorsports banner next season. And Landon Lewis, fresh off that Cars Tour late model stock title, announced a part-time Truck Series deal for 2026 with Nice Motorsports. The 4-time winner this year will have several races. Those are yet to be determined. Stay tuned for that. Coming up this weekend, we heard it from Isabella Robusto, the ARCA Series West Championship finale, the Desert Diamond Casino West Valley 100 at Phoenix Raceway. That is a part of NASCAR Championship Weekend. Of course, you can hear that race right here on the Motor Racing Network, 1:30 Eastern on MRN and Flow Racing on Saturday. Trevor Huddleston, that is, will clinch the championship with that 34-point gap just by starting the race on Saturday afternoon. He has 3 finishes of 3rd in the standings. So this is a huge, huge weekend for Trevor to get that elusive championship number 1. He will have his hands full, though, as you heard Isabella talk about earlier. The Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota is back with Brent Cruz, who won this race back in March. Pinnacle Racing Group is back, not with Brendan Butterbean Queen, but in fact making his first start for the team is Carson Brown, who's done pretty good for himself in the super late model ranks here in 2025. Thomas Annunziata, an ARCA Series winner at Lime Rock for Nitro Motorsports, is back in the 70. Tristan McKee, who won on debut at Watkins Glen, is back as well. Connor Hall and, of course, Isabella Robusto with Rafa Racing making that news this week as well. And Jade Avedissian is going to make her second start of the year for Central Coast Racing. And Derek Kraus, for the first time since 2022, will make a ARCA West Series start. He's got a couple of wins in that series as well. So a lot going on out in the desert. ARCA Series West, Desert Diamond Casino West Valley 100, 1:30 Eastern on MRN on Saturday. Other racing this weekend, just championship night, number 2 at Langley to wrap up 2025. But a lot going on next week. Mark your calendars. All-America 400 weekend. Ward Burton Foundation Crush 250. And the Fall Brawl at Hickory. Just a few going on next week. We'll talk about it, of course, on next week's show. To wrap things up, the Motor Racing Network is going to be your home for all things NASCAR Championship Weekend out in the desert at Phoenix Raceway. Of course, Friday, we'll have Cup Series practice, 50 minutes worth of practice coverage as our Championship 4 and the rest of the field get set for their season finale. That's coming your way 5:30 Eastern on Friday late afternoon. Then on Friday, later in the evening on 7 o'clock Eastern time is going to be our NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship finale as our Championship 4 of Tyler Ankrum, Corey Heim, Ty Majeski and Caden Honeycutt will duel for the title. Saturday, a triple header. We've got ARCA Series West, as you just heard, at 1:30 Eastern for their championship finale, followed by pole qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series at 5 p.m. Eastern, all leading into Saturday night racing in the desert, the NASCAR Xfinity Series season finale, and the final race for what is now known as the Xfinity Series at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And that all leads into NASCAR Live Race Day Sunday afternoon for the NASCAR Cup Series Championship, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday on MRN. So a lot to get to. Looking forward to heading out to the desert tomorrow and being with you all weekend long with the Motor Racing Network. Appreciate our guests this week. And for, as always, our producer, Pat Jaggers, my name is Chris Wilner. Thank you for tuning in to NASCAR Coast to Coast on this week's episode. We will break down Phoenix and put a bow on 2025 next week. Have a good one.